Many adults live with hidden struggles. They smile on the outside, but inside they carry anxiety, self-doubt, and fear of judgment. These battles are silent, invisible to others, yet they shape how we see ourselves and how we move through life. The before state is silence. You keep your worries inside, overthinking every decision, imagining worst outcomes, and feeling trapped by your own mind. You fear rejection, you fear failure, and you fear being misunderstood. The weight of these emotions makes you feel alone, even when surrounded by people. But the after state is different. It begins with awareness. It grows with honesty. It blossoms into courage. When you face your inner battles instead of hiding them, you discover strength you didn't know you had. What feels invisible today can become the very power that transforms tomorrow. Think of someone who always seemed cheerful at work. He laughed, he joked, and he looked confident. But inside, he was terrified of speaking up, afraid of being judged, and exhausted from pretending. For years, he lived in silence. Then one day, he admitted his struggle to a close friend. That honesty opened the door to healing. Slowly, he practiced speaking in small groups, building courage step by step. Before, he was trapped in fear. After, he was free in honesty and growth. This silent battle is more common than we think. Many people hide their struggles because they believe weakness must be hidden. But silence does not mean emptiness. Silence often means the heart is full of emotions waiting to be understood. Awareness is the first step. When you notice your patterns of overthinking, when you admit your fear of judgment, you begin to take control. Honesty is the second step. Sharing your truth, even with yourself, reduces shame and builds self-kindness. Courage is the third step. Small acts of bravery, speaking up, trying again, facing discomfort, create strength. Here's a simple exercise. Write down one fear you often hide. Then write one small action you can take to face it. It might be speaking one sentence in a meeting or saying no when you usually stay silent. Small actions build courage. Remember, the before is silence, overthinking, and fear of judgment. The after is awareness, honesty, and courage. The journey from silence to strength begins with one choice: to face what feels invisible. The shepherd's story reminds us of this truth. He carried doubts and fears in silence, but when he listened to his heart, he found courage to act. His quiet struggle became the foundation of his transformation. So if you feel unseen, if you carry battles inside, know this: you are not alone. Your silent struggle is not weakness. It is the beginning of strength. What feels invisible today can become the strength that transforms tomorrow. The weight of fear. Stagnation versus freedom. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in human life. It whispers in our minds, telling us to stay safe, to avoid risk, to remain in the comfort zone. At first, fear feels protective. It convinces us that by avoiding challenges, we are keeping ourselves secure. But over time, fear becomes a prison. The before state is paralysis. You procrastinate, delaying important tasks because you imagine the worst outcomes. You avoid opportunities, telling yourself you are not ready. You feel exhausted from overthinking, replaying scenarios in your mind where everything goes wrong. Fear of failure and rejection keeps you stuck, and life feels stagnant. The after state is freedom. Freedom comes when you recognize fear not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Mistakes are reframed as lessons, not proof of weakness. Small steps forward become victories, each one breaking the chains of avoidance. Fear loses power when you choose action over hesitation. Think of a young woman who dreamed of speaking English in public. Every time she tried, her heart raced, her hands shook, and she imagined people laughing at her mistakes. For years, she avoided speaking, hiding behind silence. But one day, she decided to face her fear. She spoke one sentence in class. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Slowly, she built confidence. Before, she was paralyzed by fear. After, she was free in courage. Fear thrives in imagination. We picture rejection, embarrassment, and failure long before they happen. The mind creates stories of disaster, and we believe them. But most of these stories never come true. The pain we fear is often greater than the reality we face. Here's a relatable example. A man avoided applying for a new job because he feared rejection. He imagined the interview going badly, the employer judging him, and the humiliation of failure. But when he finally applied, he discovered the opposite. The interview was supportive, and even though he didn't get the job, he gained valuable experience. His fear had exaggerated the risk. His action gave him growth. So how do we move from stagnation to freedom? First, awareness. Notice when fear is controlling your choices. Ask yourself, am I avoiding this because it is truly dangerous or because I am afraid of discomfort? Awareness breaks the illusion of fear. Second, reframing mistakes. Instead of seeing failure as proof of weakness, see it as evidence of growth. Every mistake teaches you something. Every rejection builds resilience. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Third, small steps forward. You don't need to conquer fear in one leap. Start small. Speak one sentence. Apply for one opportunity. Take one step outside your comfort zone. Each small action weakens fear and strengthens courage. Here's a simple exercise. Write down one fear that holds you back. Then write one small step you can take today to face it. Commit to that step, no matter how small. Action is the antidote to fear. Remember, the before is paralysis, procrastination, avoidance, and exhaustion from imagining worst outcomes. The after is freedom, recognizing fear as a teacher, reframing mistakes as growth, and taking small steps forward. The shepherd's journey shows this truth. He feared leaving his comfort zone, imagining dangers that might never come. But when he chose action, he discovered courage. His fear became his teacher, guiding him toward strength. Fear will always exist, but it does not have to control you. When you face it with awareness, honesty, and small steps, fear transforms into freedom. Fear loses power when you choose action over avoidance. Breaking mental barriers. Self-doubt versus confidence. Self-doubt is a quiet voice that whispers, "You are not enough." It creeps into your thoughts, making you hesitate, compare yourself to others, and believe success is unreachable. At first, it feels like protection, keeping you from embarrassment or failure. But in reality, self-doubt is a barrier that blocks growth and steals opportunities. The before state is hesitation. You hold back from speaking, from trying, from acting. You watch others succeed and wonder why you cannot. You compare yourself endlessly, believing they are smarter, stronger, or luckier. You convince yourself that success is for others, not for you. The after state is confidence. Confidence grows not from sudden breakthroughs, but from consistent practice and mindset shifts. It is built through small wins, identity-based habits, and reframing setbacks as lessons. Confidence is not born, it is built, one choice at a time. Think of a young man who dreamed of becoming a teacher. He loved learning, But every time he spoke in front of others, his voice shook. He doubted himself, believing he was not good enough. For years, he avoided opportunities. Then he changed his approach. He started small, teaching one child after school. Each lesson gave him a small win. Over time, his confidence grew. Before, he was trapped in doubt. After, he was free in progress. Confidence is built through identity. Every small action you repeat tells your mind who you are. If you write daily, you become a writer. If you practice speaking daily, you become a communicator. Identity-based habits transform self-doubt into confidence. Here's another story. A woman wanted to learn English, but she doubted herself. She compared her accent to others and felt ashamed. She avoided speaking, believing she would never improve. Then she began journaling her progress. Each day she wrote one sentence in English. Slowly she saw improvement. Her journal became proof of growth. Before, she was stuck in comparison. After, she was free in confidence. So how do you break mental barriers of self-doubt? First, journaling progress. Write down your actions daily. Journaling shows you that growth is real, even when it feels invisible. Second, affirmations. Speak positive truths to yourself. Replace I am not enough with I am learning, I am growing, I am capable. Affirmations rewire your mindset. Third, accountability. Share your goals with someone you trust. Accountability keeps you consistent and reminds you that you are not alone. Fourth, reframing setbacks. See failure not as proof of weakness, but as evidence of effort. Every setback is a lesson. Every mistake is a step toward growth. Here's a simple exercise. Write down one area where you feel self-doubt. Then write one small action you can take today to build confidence. Commit to that action. Confidence grows through choices, not wishes. Remember, the before is hesitation, comparison, and believing success is unreachable. The after is confidence built through small wins, identity-based habits, and reframing setbacks as lessons. The shepherd's journey shows this truth. He doubted himself, believing he was too weak to succeed. But each step forward gave him proof of strength. His small wins built confidence. His setbacks became lessons. His identity transformed from doubt to courage. Confidence is not a gift, it is a practice. It is built through discipline, patience, and resilience. So if you feel self-doubt whispering that you are not enough, remember this. Confidence is not born. It is built, one choice at a time. The power of consistency. Impatience versus growth change is never instant. It takes time, patience, and steady effort. Yet many people quit too early because they believe progress is too slow. They expect transformation overnight, and when results don't appear quickly, frustration takes over. The before state is impatience. You start strong, but when success doesn't come fast, you feel discouraged. You tell yourself it's not working, and you give up. This cycle repeats, leaving you stuck in disappointment and regret. The after state is growth. Growth comes when you accept that progress is slow but steady. Consistency builds identity, and identity builds resilience. Each small step, repeated daily, becomes proof of who you are becoming. Think of a man who wanted to get fit. He joined a gym, worked out hard for 2 weeks, and expected big changes. When he didn't see results, he quit. Months later, he tried again, but this time he focused on consistency. He walked every morning, tracked his progress, and celebrated small wins. Slowly, his health improved. Before, he was trapped in impatience. After, he was free in growth. Consistency is powerful because it shapes identity. When you show up daily, even in small ways, you tell yourself, I am the kind of person who does this. That identity becomes confidence. Confidence becomes transformation. Here's another story. A woman wanted to learn English. She studied for hours one day, then stopped for weeks. Her progress was slow, and she felt frustrated. Later, she changed her approach. She practiced 10 minutes daily, wrote down her progress, and celebrated each small win. Months later, she spoke with confidence. Before, she was stuck in impatience. After, she was free in consistency. So how can you build consistency and patience? First, celebrate small wins. Don't wait for big success to feel proud. Every step forward matters. Second, track progress. Write down your actions daily. Tracking shows you that growth is real even when it feels invisible. Third, reframe setbacks. Failure is not the end, it is part of the journey. Each setback teaches resilience and builds strength. Here's a simple exercise. Choose one habit you want to build. Track it daily for 1 week. Celebrate each day you succeed. If you miss a day, write down what you learned and start again. Remember, the before is frustration, impatience, and quitting too early. The after is growth through patience, where consistency creates identity and resilience. The shepherd's journey shows this truth. He faced setbacks and doubts, but he kept walking step by step. His persistence built strength. His consistency built confidence. Change requires patience. Confidence requires consistency. Transformation requires both. Consistency builds confidence, and confidence builds transformation. From silence to strength. Shyness and fear often feel permanent. They seem like walls built around your life, keeping you silent, ashamed, and hidden from the world. You smile on the outside, but inside you carry battles no one sees. This is the before state. Silence, shame, and struggle that feels endless. But these barriers are not unbreakable. They are temporary, and they can be overcome. The after state is honesty, self-kindness, and courage to act. When you begin to face your fears, even in small ways, you discover that strength has been inside you all along. Think of someone who avoided speaking in public for years. Every time he imagined it, his heart raced and his mind froze. He believed he was too shy, too weak, too broken. But one day he chose honesty. He admitted his fear to a friend, and he took one small step, speaking a single sentence in front of others. That moment was not perfect, but it was powerful. It was the seed of transformation. Small steps matter more than sudden breakthroughs. You don't need to change your life overnight. You don't need to erase fear in one leap. Progress comes from patience, from daily courage, from choosing action even when it feels uncomfortable. Here's a simple truth. Silence does not mean emptiness. Silence often means there is a voice waiting to be heard. When you give yourself permission to speak, to act, to try, you begin to break the chains of fear. Practical tools can help you on this journey. Practice self-kindness by reminding yourself that fear is normal. Celebrate small wins, no matter how small they seem. Reframe setbacks as lessons, not failures. Each step forward builds resilience. Each act of courage builds confidence. The shepherd's journey reminds us of this truth. He once carried doubts in silence, believing he was too weak to succeed. But each step forward gave him proof of strength. His honesty with himself, his patience in the journey, and his courage to act transformed his life. So if you feel trapped in silence, remember this. You are not alone. Your struggle is not permanent. Your fear is not your identity. You are capable of change, capable of courage, capable of transformation. Don't wait for freedom to arrive on its own. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start with one small act of courage today. Speak one word, take one step, face one fear. That small act is the seed of transformation. Because from silence comes strength, from fear comes freedom, and from small steps comes the life you were meant to live.